As a travel lover, I have been to many countries. Whenever I visit a new place, I always try the local specialties. In the winter of 2021, I traveled to Thailand, which is one of my favorite countries. I really like the climate there. Many people think that Thai food may be too spicy, but I really enjoyed the taste and every bite gave me a thrill. I tried many dishes in Thailand, and one of my favorites was the cold seafood. I know this diet of mine may not be very healthy, but when I come across my favorite food, I can't help myself. When traveling, I find it a very rewarding experience to taste local cuisine because it not only satisfies my taste buds, but also gives me a better understanding of the local lifestyle. During my travels, I would occasionally feel pain in my abdomen. I've had this happen before, but this time it felt a little worse. So I decided to return home early. The day after I returned home, I went to the hospital by myself. The doctor examined my body, but could not determine the cause of my illness. He said it was possible that I had eaten some kind of unclean food that caused it. I've had this before, so I took some painkillers like I used to do. But this time it didn't help. My mother was very worried about me and she noticed that I was getting worse, so she took me to the hospital again. This time I was lucky enough to meet an experienced doctor. He examined me carefully and then told me that my appendix had started to ulcerate and that I had to schedule an operation as soon as possible. When I heard this news, I felt very scared and worried. I had never experienced surgery before. The doctor also told me that appendicitis could cause more serious consequences if left untreated. Surgery was the only treatment and it had to be done as soon as possible. Before the surgery, I was very scared. The nurse kept encouraging me and assured me that the operation would be completed successfully. But then the accident happened. I lost a lot of blood during the operation and my heart stopped beating. When I lost consciousness, I entered a very strange state. I felt like I was leaving my body. Instead of feeling any pain, I felt very relaxed and free. My consciousness was floating on the ceiling of the operating room, and I saw that there were many people around my body. I did not feel any attachment to my body. I felt that I was ready to leave. This state made me feel very relaxed. I realized that my body was the source of my pain, and now I was free of it. I felt very free, without the pain I had before and without the worries in my life. It was a very wonderful feeling. Suddenly, a mysterious force pulled me upward. After I left the hospital, I flew into the sky. I felt like a bird, flying freely in the air. As I looked down at the earth, I saw many wonderful sights. I saw beautiful mountains and vast seas. Every creature has its own way of living, and every place has its unique charm. I realized that everything in the world is interconnected. Every creature and every plant has their place and their role. I can see how we are all connected. We are a part of each other. And part of God. I got further and further away from the earth and I came into a light. It was filled with pure light, and I felt like I was becoming part of it. Soon, I noticed two angels with a golden glow on their bodies. Although I had never seen them before, I felt that there was some kind of connection between us. I tried to see their faces, but no matter how much I stared, I couldn't make out specific features. We communicated with our minds, and this communication was very intuitive and quick. They were very welcoming and I felt their warmth and goodwill. They told me that the world is a harmonious whole and that we are all part of it. They took me to a mysterious place. Here I saw countless spheres, as if they were scaled-down versions of the universe. Each sphere has its own characteristics and unique light. Some spheres shone with various colors, while others showed detailed and wonderful patterns. I also saw the earth, which is so wonderful and magical. The earth is full of life and energy, like a hive of awakened bees. It was like a beautiful blue jewel with a dazzling glow. I can clearly see the outlines of the continents and oceans. The earth is like a giant organism, full of energy and vitality. I saw countless life forms, from the birds in the sky to the giant whales in the depths of the ocean. All this constitutes a harmonious ecosystem. This scene gave me a deeper understanding of nature and the universe. Here, I also saw many things that will happen in the future. Among these things, there are good things and bad things. The one that impressed me the most was that there will be a serious virus crisis in the future. The scale of this one is more severe than any other, causing panic and anxiety on a global scale. The reasons for the spread of this virus are multiple. Due to the excessive destruction of the natural environment by people, many wild animals have lost their habitats. These animals choose to live around cities in order to get food. This situation makes it easy for the virus to spread to humans. This virus is extremely contagious and deadly, and can even kill people within a week. Due to modern transportation and a globalized economy, the virus spread rapidly across the globe and soon spread to every corner. This viral crisis has brought great impact and destruction to human society. Many lives would be lost. The global economy was hit hard, many businesses went bankrupt, and large numbers of people fell into poverty and hunger. Many countries have become more vulnerable because of the lack of effective control measures. I asked one of the angels, "Are these disasters really going to happen?" He replied, "The timeline is very complicated. We are not sure that they will happen, but we can see the possibility of how things will unfold." Another angel reassured me that we believe that humanity can overcome these difficulties and challenges. Finally, the angel told me that I had to go back now. That my time had not yet come. They had other work to complete. I felt very curious, so I asked him, "What kind of work?" He explained, "I need to go and pick up those who have just died and come here." I asked him if he could take me with him, and he hesitated for a moment, but finally agreed. The angel took me to a hospital and we entered a hospital room. I saw an old man lying on a bed, his face was pale and he looked very frail. I noticed that there was a medical record on the table, which stated that he was a patient with terminal lung cancer. Suddenly, the old man's body began to tremble and his breathing became more and more rapid. I watched this and felt heartbroken. But the angel stood by and watched calmly, as if he had it all under control. Soon, the old man's body stopped functioning completely. The old man's soul slowly left his body. The old man slowly opened his eyes and found that he was no longer in a hospital bed. His face wore a puzzled expression. He saw the angel and me and felt even more confused. The angel walked over to the old man and said, "Your mission on earth is finished, now you can go to heaven with me." The old man's face showed a hint of surprise and he asked, "Heaven? Can I really go to heaven?" The angel smiled and replied, "Yes, heaven is your true home." A look of satisfaction appeared on the old man's face, and then he thanked the angel. He looked down at his body as if he was saying goodbye to it. We came to another place, this one very beautiful. The angel said to the old man, "I will now take you to God." The old man looked a little nervous and he asked the angel, "Is it true that you are going to see God?" Will God judge me? The angel smiled and replied, God is the creator of all things and He is the Father of all of us. He loves each and every one of us, as you will soon understand. When the old man heard the angel's answer, the doubts on his face slowly dissipated. Then, the angel led us to the gate of heaven. The gate of heaven radiated a dazzling light. The angel told the old man that God was inside. I stood in front of the gate of heaven and felt very excited. The angel told me, "It is time for you to go back." I asked him to let me see God too. The angel looked at me, smiled, and said, "You will see Him when your mission is finished." I felt a little lost. As I was about to leave, the old man waved goodbye to me and told me to cherish life and pursue my dreams with courage. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back in my hospital bed. My body felt very weak. I remembered what I had just experienced in heaven and it felt as if it was a real dream. My family members were waiting by my bedside. When they saw me wake up, they all had smiles of relief on their faces. They told me that I had been in a coma for several days and they were all very worried about my condition. I had a whole new perspective on death. I no longer fear it because I know that when my time comes, the angels will be by my side, accompanying me on my final journey. And then take me back to my home and to heaven. I often share my story with some older people, telling them that death is not scary because we will all have a good place to go. This message gives them a sense of peace and comfort, makes them more willing to accept the inevitable. In 1999, I was in a state of extreme despair and loneliness. I was in a rut on all fronts. My relationship with my family became distant, and things weren't going well at work. I felt there was no hope for the future. In this situation, I began to consider ending my life. Just as I was about to take action, I experienced something really amazing. I met God and He had a conversation with me. Although this sounds very unbelievable, I am sure it was real. God's presence is very real. He guided me out of a difficult situation and rediscovered the meaning of life. This experience completely changed my life and brought me out of my despair and loneliness. I regained my confidence and strength to begin a new journey. When I was 26 years old, I had no real friends. I was alone at home every night. I started to get tired of my situation and I couldn't find anyone to talk about my thoughts and feelings. I felt like the darkness was consuming me and I was ready to end my life. My faith in God remained strong, but I was unable to love myself. I felt like my existence was a mistake. Every night, I wanted to escape this painful feeling. One night, I was lying in bed alone. I began to cry and pray at the same time. I told God, if you really exist, I need your help. I have come to the end of my life, and I cannot go on without your help and your love. I told Him that I had tried my best to find my way, but now I was in darkness and needed His guidance. I knew that if God really existed, He would hear my prayers. If He did not exist, His silence would be my answer. Suddenly, a dazzling light appeared in the room. This light was so strong that it illuminated every corner of the room. It made me feel like I had entered another world. I felt that my fear and despair had disappeared. Although I did not see the image of God, I felt His presence. He conveyed His love to me in a silent way. God and I did not use words to communicate, but telepathic communication. The feeling was amazing. God said to me, I am always there for you, and everything will be okay. My child, I have always loved you. Nothing you do will ever separate you from my love. When God called out my name, I knew it was my real name. That name felt very old and completely different from the name my parents had given me. I knew that name belonged only to me. God took me into another dimension. This is a space made up of God's love. Here, I felt immensely happy and content. I felt surrounded by infinite love. A wonderful connection was established between me and God that cannot be described in words. This experience made me feel like I was home, back in my true home. I learned a lot in this space. God is not only the creator of the universe, but also created me. He has infused me with infinite love and creativity. I know I can trust him because his justice and mercy will never change. Although God is so perfect, my heart is full of doubts. I asked God, why is there so much pain in my life, and where were you when I was suffering? God said, my child, do you think that you are the only one who suffers? Everyone has their own difficulties, but these experiences can make you stronger. When you feel pain, I am actually always with you. I couldn't help but complain, then why don't you stop these sufferings? God went on to say, if I always protect you, you will never be able to grow. Sometimes you need to face these challenges on your own in order to become stronger. God reminded me that, my child, you need to learn to trust. Trust yourself, trust others, trust me. When you encounter problems, you must trust that you have the ability to face everything, that those around you will support you, and that my love will always be there for you. Then God held my hand and a strong energy passed through my body. It was like I had traveled back in time and I went back in time. I saw myself as a small child, beaten by my father. I saw myself crying at home, praying for my mother to come and protect me. But my mother never showed up. And I had to suffer all this pain alone. Then I saw myself at school, where the voices of ridicule and mockery were constantly ringing in my ears. At that time, I felt very lonely and helpless. Then, I saw myself being criticized by the leaders at work. I felt so lost and frustrated that I didn't know how to respond. God told me to look closely at every detail. He reminded me to pay attention to the details around my body. In every memory, I saw a soft light around me. God told me that in my loneliest times, when I was abused and hurt, He was always there for me, surrounding me with His love. In that moment, I understood that I was never truly alone because God was with me all the time. As I continued to observe, I realized that I saw a light around all people. Some people may have hurt me at one time or another, but in God's eyes, they are also His children. I began to understand that God's love did not just shine on me, but that His love shines on all people, all life. God held me and gently comforted me. He said, "My child, although I cannot change anything now, I promise you that you will come out of the gloom and everything will be all right." I looked up at God with tears in my eyes. He looked at me with a warm gaze and continued, "Don't be afraid, I will never let you face pain and difficulties alone. Believe me, I will always be by your side and support you." I asked Him, "What should I do?" I didn't know how to face the people who had hurt me. God said, "My children, they are my children too. They may have made mistakes, but they too can be forgiven and loved by me. You need to learn to forgive them because you are all my children. Believe me, everyone has the opportunity to change." I asked Him, "Everyone has a light around their body, what is that light?" God patiently explained, "That is my love, everyone is enveloped in love, it will bring you strength and support. I took a deep breath and felt the frustration in my heart slowly dissipate. God continued. My child, one day you will return to your true home and meet me there again. There you will find true inner peace and joy. I talked a lot with God here. God also gave me a glimpse of my future life. In terms of my career, I eventually found a job that I love and continue to grow and improve. There will be some setbacks and difficulties, but I will persevere and eventually succeed. In terms of marriage, I will also encounter some ups and downs. Although I have to go through a failed marriage, this experience makes me cherish true love more. Eventually, I found a trustworthy person. We support each other through every stage of our lives. Although we do have conflicts and arguments, we work through communication to solve problems. I asked God, are these things really going to happen in the future? God replied, all these things will happen if you believe in yourself. Your future is totally up to you. You need to believe in yourself, pursue your dreams, and face challenges and difficulties bravely. His words filled me with hope and courage. I stood there with God holding me tightly. In His arms, I felt a sense of safety and peace. He told me that He had to leave and that He would be there for me in a different way. The light in the room was fading. I held on to Him as long as I could, but He slowly disappeared from me. When God disappeared, although I felt some loss, I knew He would always be there for me. I began to try to change myself. I knew that I myself had a lot of responsibility for all this pain in the past. There was a lack of communication between us in our dealings with our families. There was a lack of trust in our dealings with our coworkers. I started to try to repair the relationship with my family. So I started to reach out to them. I found that every communication brought us closer to each other, and I understood their thoughts and needs better. On the work front, I started to try to build a more trusting relationship with my colleagues. In the past, I often conveyed negative emotions to my colleagues, and doing so only damaged our relationship. Therefore, I decided to take the initiative to show my colleagues that I trust and respect them. I began to listen to their opinions and suggestions, and to offer them my own ideas and opinions as well. I remember a time when I had a disagreement with a colleague about a project. In the past, I might have taken a negative attitude or simply distanced myself from him. But this time, I tried to take a different approach. I sat down with him and listened carefully to each other's ideas and opinions. Together, we discussed and analyzed the strengths and weaknesses of the project and came up with solutions. In the end, we achieved great results in the project and our relationship became closer. I found that as I worked to change myself, my life began to change for the better. I have become closer to my family, and the trust and cooperation with my colleagues has become even better. I know this path is not easy, but I will continue to persevere. There was a time when I became lost again. When I came to church, I told my pastor about my experience. He listened to me quietly. He did not interrupt me, nor did he show any surprise. He always had a quiet look on his face. When I finished speaking, he said, "You are very blessed to have experienced God's love and mercy firsthand. This is something that many people do not experience." I asked him, "Do you really believe in my experience?" He nodded, smiled, and said, "Of course I believe. God's love is everywhere, and His mercy will come to anyone. It is only natural that He should appear in your life." I felt a great sense of relief, knowing that I had not been misunderstood. His word strengthened my conviction that my experience was real. He went on to say, "Your experience also reminds us that a relationship with God can be experienced firsthand. We can feel God's love and mercy if we are willing to listen to our inner voice." Every one of us in life faces a variety of challenges and difficulties. But if we believe in the existence of God and trust in His help and grace, we can overcome these challenges. He will always be there for us, giving us strength and courage. I know that God's love is infinite and He is willing to bring happiness and peace to everyone. This conversation with the pastor made me re-examine my faith and life, and made me stronger in my connection with God.